When a woman loses trust in you, it feels like the foundation of the relationship has been shaken. Maybe you made a mistake, maybe she misunderstood something, or maybe your actions didn't line up with your words. Whatever the case, trust is one of the hardest things to rebuild, and here's the key most men miss. You can't win it back by begging. In fact, begging makes you look weak, desperate, and powerless. And once a woman senses that weakness, her respect for you slips even further. That's why in this video we're going to break down 7 powerful steps to regain her trust the right way, without pleading, without chasing, and without losing your self-respect in the process. These are strategies that put you back in the driver's seat, that show her through your actions, not your words, that you're a man she can rely on again. Think about it. When has begging ever worked long-term? You might get a temporary okay or a second chance, but deep down, she still doubts you. True trust is earned back through strength, consistency, and discipline. Qualities every man watching this should be developing not just for women, but for life. Here's the twist most men don't see. Regaining trust isn't about convincing her with promises. It's about proving yourself with behavior. It's about making subtle but bold changes that force her to see you differently. And when you do that, she'll not only trust you again, she'll also respect you on a deeper level, something begging can never achieve. So if you've ever wondered how to flip the script, how to recover from mistakes without lowering yourself, and how to make her feel like she can trust you again, stay locked in. By the end of this video, you'll have a blueprint that makes her second guess ever doubting you in the first place. 1. Stop explaining and start showing through action. When trust breaks in a relationship, most men panic. They start talking too much, trying to explain every detail, swearing on their mother's life that it won't happen again. They think if they can just say the right words, she'll forgive them and trust will magically come back. But here's the hard truth. When a woman doesn't trust you anymore, your words mean nothing. In fact, the more you talk, the more you dig yourself into a hole because she's no longer listening to what you say, she's watching what you do. Let me give you a real scenario. A guy forgets his girlfriend's birthday because he's swamped with work. He feels awful, so he buys her flowers, writes a long apology text, and spends hours explaining how stressed he's been. Does that rebuild trust? No, because the action she remembers is him not showing up for her when it mattered. The words only sound like excuses, but imagine instead, he simply acknowledged his mistake, didn't drown her in explanations, and then consistently made an effort moving forward, planning dates, remembering details, and showing up on time. That steady change in behavior would speak louder than any apology. Here's why this works. Women are emotional, and emotions don't respond to logic the same way men do. You can argue your case like a lawyer, but she'll only believe you if she feels the change. And feelings are shaped by consistent actions, not desperate speeches. That's why begging never works. Begging screams weakness. It shows her you're more concerned with her approval than actually improving yourself. The silence of action is powerful. When you stop over-explaining and just move differently, she notices. She may test you at first, asking little questions to see if you're serious, or even bringing up the past to see if you'll break down and start groveling again. But if you stay steady, calm, and committed to your new behavior, she starts to relax. Slowly, her mind rewires. Maybe he really has changed. Another powerful thing happens when you focus on showing instead of telling. You shift the frame back to yourself. Instead of being reactive, you're proactive. You're no longer trying to convince her of who you are. You're being that man. And when you live in alignment with your words, she'll feel it on a deeper level than she ever could from an explanation. So the lesson here is simple but life-changing. Stop talking about it, stop promising, stop begging. Let your actions become undeniable. Let her see the difference, not hear about it. That's how you plant the seed of trust again. Words are cheap, but consistent actions are priceless. If you want her to believe in you again, don't try to win the argument. Win her respect through proof. 2. Rebuild your frame. Put yourself first again. One of the most overlooked truths about regaining a woman's trust is this: she will never trust you if you've lost trust in yourself. And that's exactly what happens when a man slips into weakness, chasing her approval, begging for her forgiveness, and putting her above everything else in his life. It might feel like the right move in the moment, but it destroys the very thing you're trying to rebuild, her respect. Because at her core, a woman can only trust a man who is solid in his frame. Your frame is the invisible energy you carry. It's your mindset, your values, your mission, and the way you handle yourself when pressure hits. A strong frame tells her, I'm unshakable. No matter what happens, I remain who I am. When trust is broken, she tests that frame more than ever. She wants to see if you'll fold, if you'll lose yourself, or if you'll rise stronger. And the moment you start prioritizing her opinion over your own standards, she knows your frame has cracked. Let's paint a scenario. Imagine a man whose girlfriend accuses him of flirting at a party. Whether he did or not, he immediately abandons his own frame. He spends hours pleading, swearing on everything he loves, and even reshaping his behavior into whatever she demands. He thinks this will calm her, but in reality, it makes her trust him even less. Why? Because she can feel that he's not standing firm. His actions scream that her emotional storm controls him. And no woman feels safe trusting a man who collapses under her pressure. Now flip that script. Instead of groveling, he calmly explains once, that's not what happened. I respect you, but I won't let false accusations define me. Then he continues living his life with discipline, focused on his work, his fitness, his mission. He doesn't chase validation, he doesn't break his routine, and he doesn't crumble when she tests him. Over time, she starts to see the consistency. She realizes his frame is solid, and slowly, her trust in him returns. Not because of what he said, but because of the strength he displayed. The lesson here is clear. Rebuilding trust doesn't start with her. It starts with you. It starts with putting yourself first again, not in a selfish way, but in a disciplined, grounded way that reminds her why she chose you in the first place. When you're on your mission, when you're building yourself up, when you're leading with strength instead of chasing her approval, she feels it. And that feeling is exactly what allows her to trust you again. A woman will forgive mistakes. She will even give second chances. But she will never fully trust a man who has no frame. Put yourself first, not because it makes her happy, but because it makes you strong. When you do that, she'll trust you again, because she'll see you as the man who can lead both himself and her. 3. Be consistent with your words and actions. If there's one thing that separates women trust from men they can't, it's consistency. Women don't rebuild trust because of one grand gesture, one big apology, or one dramatic change in behavior. Those moments might impress her for a day, but trust isn't about moments. It's about patterns. And the truth is, if you want her to believe in you again, you have to become the man who shows up the same way every time, no matter what. Think about it. When a man makes a mistake, his instinct is usually to go all out with some grand demonstration. Maybe he buys her gifts, makes a dramatic promise, or writes out a long, emotional message about how things will be different. But what happens? A week later, he slips back into the same habits. And now she's not just disappointed, she's convinced he can't be trusted. Because in her eyes, inconsistency isn't a small thing, it's proof that you can't follow through. Women are wired to test for consistency. If you say you're going to do something, she watches to see if you'll actually do it. If you claim you've changed, she doesn't believe it after a day or even a week. She believes it after seeing you live it consistently. This is why consistency is so powerful. It doesn't just tell her you're trustworthy, it proves it. Here's a scenario to make it clear. Imagine a man who's been unreliable, always canceling plans, showing up late, or forgetting important moments. His girlfriend is tired of it and she doesn't believe his words anymore. Now, he could give her another speech about how much she means to him, or he could do something far more effective, start showing up on time, every single time. No excuses, no exceptions. At first, she might roll her eyes and think, he'll mess this up again. But after weeks and months of consistency, she can't deny the change. Slowly, her brain rewrites the story she had about him. He's no longer the guy who always flakes. He's the guy I can count on. That shift doesn't come from promises, it comes from patterns. Consistency also extends beyond the relationship. If you're disciplined in your life, your fitness, your work, your word, she'll notice. A man who can keep promises to himself automatically looks more trustworthy to her. Why? Because if you can't even be consistent with yourself, how could you ever be consistent with her? So here's the takeaway. Forget about quick fixes. Forget about dramatic one-time gestures. Build consistency into who you are. Become the man who aligns his words with his actions every single day. That's how you don't just regain her trust. You become the type of man who never loses it again. And once she feels that steady reliability, she'll stop doubting you and start leaning on you. Because nothing builds trust like consistency. 4. Set boundaries and stick to them. Here's where a lot of men fail when trust is broken. They confuse regaining trust with giving a woman unlimited control. Out of guilt or fear of losing her, they start saying yes to everything, tolerating every emotional outburst and letting her set all the rules. On the surface, it looks like compromise, but in reality, it kills attraction and destroys trust even further. Why? Because a woman doesn't trust a man who can be controlled. She only trusts a man who can control himself. This is the part that sounds controversial, but it's the truth most men don't want to hear. The moment you bend over backward to avoid upsetting her, you stop being the man she respected in the first place. And if she can bend you, break you, and move you around like a puppet, she may stay with you, but she will never trust you again. Boundaries are not about pushing her away. They're about showing her you stand for something bigger than her moods. Let me paint a picture. Imagine you made a mistake, and now she constantly throws it in your face. Every argument, every conversation, she brings it back up. A man without boundaries will tolerate it forever, thinking it's the price he has to pay. But the longer he allows it, the more she loses respect for him, because deep down, she knows no man with strength would keep tolerating being dragged through the mud. Now imagine a different response. Instead of repeating the same apology 1,000 times, you calmly say, "I've acknowledged what I did wrong, and I've shown you I'm different now. If you want to move forward, I'm here. But I won't live in the past forever." That one statement, backed by calm strength, tells her you have boundaries, and ironically, that's when she begins to trust you more, because she sees you won't let emotions control your manhood. The reason this works is because women don't feel safe with men they can walk all over. She might push against your boundaries at first, but deep down, she's testing to see if you'll stand firm. And every time you hold your ground with respect and composure, her respect for you grows. That respect is the seed of trust. Boundaries are what separate leaders from followers in relationships. A man with boundaries says, "This is who I am, this is what I allow, and this is what I don't." He doesn't scream it, he doesn't demand it. He simply lives it, and the woman either aligns with it or removes herself. Either way, he doesn't lose himself. So yes, it's controversial. Some people will say setting boundaries is harsh or controlling, but in reality, it's the opposite. It's clarity, it's strength, and it's the foundation of trust. Without boundaries, you're just a man trying to buy love with compliance. With them, you're the man she can finally lean on again. 5. Create space. Let her come to you. One of the hardest things for men to grasp after breaking a woman's trust is the idea of stepping back. Every instinct screams to do the opposite. To hover, to cling, to constantly reassure her that you're sorry and things will be different. But here's the reality. The more you chase her trust, the more you smother it. Trust doesn't grow under pressure, it grows in space. And if you want her to come back to you, you have to give her the room to do it on her own. This is where a lot of men sabotage themselves. They think that by being ever present, constantly checking in, or flooding her with attention, they're proving they care. But what she actually feels is suffocation. Instead of safety, she feels pressure. Instead of curiosity, she feels resistance. The psychology here is simple. People don't value what's forced on them. They value what they choose. If she feels she doesn't even have the space to make that choice, trust never has the chance to rebuild. Picture this scenario. A man lies to his girlfriend about something small but significant. maybe where he was one night. She finds out, and instantly her trust is gone. He panics. For the next 2 weeks, he texts her constantly, calls her non-stop, tries to be at her place every free moment, and floods her with reassurances. But instead of making her feel secure, he makes her feel like he's trying to trap her. His desperation makes her question his motives even more. Now flip that same scenario. Instead of panicking, he apologizes once, makes it clear he understands the damage, and then steps back. He doesn't smother her. He focuses on his work, his gym routine, his mission. He gives her the space to process her emotions. And slowly, she notices. She thinks, why isn't he begging? Why isn't he chasing? That curiosity is powerful. It makes her lean in again, not because he pressured her, but because she saw a man strong enough to give her space without losing himself. This is what most men miss. Space is not abandonment. It's confidence. It's saying, I know my value. I want this to work, but I don't need to force it. And that energy is magnetic. A woman will always be more drawn to a man who can stand on his own 2 feet than to a man who collapses into desperation. By creating space, you're doing 2 things at once. You're giving her the freedom to decide if she wants to trust you again, and you're proving to her that you're not defined by her validation. That combination is what flips the dynamic back in your favor. So if you're serious about regaining her trust, resist the urge to hover. Don't chase her every second. Step back, focus on yourself, and let her curiosity pull her closer. Trust isn't rebuilt through pressure, it's rebuilt through space, and the man who understands this always wins in the long run. 6. Show growth, not guilt. When most men try to win back a woman's trust, they fall into the trap of guilt. They apologize 100 times, they replay the mistake endlessly, they walk on eggshells as if their punishment is never ending. And while they think this shows remorse, what it really shows is weakness. Guilt does not rebuild trust, growth does. A woman doesn't want to see you drowning in regret, she wants to see you rising into a stronger version of yourself. Think about it from her perspective. If every time she looks at you, all she sees is guilt, what does that communicate? It tells her you're stuck in the past. It tells her you're too fragile to move forward. And most dangerously, it tells her you're more focused on feeling sorry for yourself than actually improving. That doesn't inspire confidence, it drains it. A woman can forgive mistakes, but she can't trust a man who refuses to grow past them. Here's a real-world scenario. A man lies about something small. Maybe it was about money, maybe it was about who he was with. She finds out, and her trust is gone. He apologizes as he should. But then he doesn't stop. Every conversation is filled with, I'm so sorry, please don't hate me, I'll never forgive myself. At first it might seem sincere, but over time it starts to wear on her. She doesn't see change, she sees repetition. She doesn't see strength, she sees weakness. Compare that to another man who apologizes once, takes ownership, and then goes to work on himself. He doesn't sit in guilt. He starts showing discipline, consistency, and responsibility. He stops making excuses and starts making changes. Over time, she notices he's different. He's sharper, he's more focused, he's leveled up. And while she may still remember the mistake, she begins to feel something more powerful than forgiveness. She feels trust in his growth. This is the critical difference. Guilt keeps you small. Growth makes you magnetic. A man showing growth communicates that he learns, adapts, and evolves under pressure. That's exactly the type of man a woman feels safe trusting again. Because she knows if he stumbles, he won't stay down. He'll rise stronger. And that quality matters more than perfection. The irony is, many men think guilt is noble. They think constantly apologizing makes them look accountable. But accountability without action is just empty theater. True accountability is proven through transformation. And here's where you flip the frame. Stop trying to prove to her how bad you feel. Start proving through your daily actions how much stronger you've become. So the lesson is simple. Don't live in guilt. Let your mistake be the fuel for growth. Become more disciplined, more reliable, more focused. Let her see that you're not the same man who slipped up. You're a better one. Trust isn't rebuilt through endless apologies. It's rebuilt when your growth becomes impossible to ignore. 7. Lead with confidence, not apologies. At the end of the day, a woman doesn't rebuild trust in a man who begs, pleads, and apologizes endlessly. She rebuilds trust in the man who shows he can lead again. Confidence is the cornerstone of trust, and if you lose that, no amount of sorry will ever fill the gap. The truth is, if she sees you walking on eggshells, afraid to upset her, afraid to speak your mind, afraid to make a move without permission, her trust in you dies a slow death. But when you carry yourself with quiet strength, when you own your mistakes without letting them define you, that's when she feels safe, leaning back into you. Here's what most men get wrong. They think being confident after breaking trust makes them look arrogant, like they don't care, so they go in the opposite direction, over-apologizing, trying to prove they're humble, trying to show they'll do anything to make it up. But what they don't realize is that humility without confidence looks like weakness. A woman doesn't trust weakness. She might sympathize with it, but she doesn't feel secure in it. What makes her trust you again is not endless guilt, it's leadership. Picture this: a man cheats, lies, or messes up in some way that shatters his partner's trust. He admits it, apologizes once, and takes responsibility. But instead of spending the next 6 months drowning in apologies, he shifts into leadership. He starts living with integrity. He communicates directly, calmly, and with clarity. He doesn't avoid hard conversations, but he also doesn't let them spiral into chaos. His presence feels steady. His decisions feel firm. And because he leads himself with confidence, she feels like he can lead her again. That's what flips the script, not the apology itself, but the confidence behind it. Confidence also rewrites the narrative in her mind. Instead of seeing you as the man who failed, she starts seeing you as the man who recovered. And recovery is powerful. It shows resilience. It shows growth. It shows that you're not defined by mistakes, but by how you rise from them. Women instinctively trust men who can rise because it signals strength, and strength is the foundation of safety in her world. Now here's the part that might sting. Not every woman will come back, even if you rebuild yourself, and that's okay, because the confidence you build in this process isn't just for her, it's for you. If she stays, she'll follow your lead because you've proven yourself again. If she leaves, you still walk away with your dignity intact, stronger than you were before. Either way, you win. That's what confidence does. It ensures you never lose yourself, no matter what happens. So understand this. Leadership and confidence are the ultimate trust builders, not desperation, not endless apologies, not playing the victim. If you want her to see you as trustworthy again, become the man who leads with strength, calm, and certainty. Apologies fade, confidence lasts, and it's the men who lead with confidence who never have to beg for trust in the first place. Regaining a woman's trust isn't about drowning in apologies or begging for another chance. It's about becoming a man who proves himself through strength, consistency, and leadership. When you show growth instead of guilt, when you stand firm with boundaries, when you lead with quiet confidence, she feels safe trusting you again. But the real victory isn't just her trust, it's the man you become in the process. If you're serious about mastering yourself, commanding respect, and winning in every area of life, hit that subscribe button. This is where men become unstoppable.